So you can have a job that pays the bills, and if that is not enough, you could go to do a college degree or a university degree, gain your qualifications so you can climb the ladder. Climb the ladder in, let's say, an organization. For some that works just fine, but many also realize with having more responsibilities it also means is that other people can claim you. And what then we must do is say yes to someone else, and sometimes that means no to us, because we must of course please them so we can get a paycheck in return. So climbing the ladder of course is great for some if your ambitions are there, but for some that also means is that we can come to a realization that we have put our ladder against the wrong wall. And if you realize that you are not for a simple job, neither do you want a career, the next step could be having your own business. So what many entrepreneurs and business owners do is they sacrifice themselves for 4 or 5 years to build something, to create something, and they work 80-90 hours a week in order to avoid 40 to 50 hours a week from a normal job or climbing a career ladder. And then unfortunately many of us realize, like, wait a minute, we are missing something, because I do not longer feel the joy and the satisfaction of where I'm at, and therefore I feel like I am burning out. I start to feel numb. I can't feel the joy, the drive, the excitement, the passion, and neither do I experience the fulfillment and the satisfaction from what I'm doing. And then of course there is a fourth element which actually we all want to experience, but many of us unfortunately we don't, and if we don't, then we burn out. So let's talk about this fourth element. So welcome back, my name is Jean-Paul, in case you didn't know that, and I've been creating YouTube videos about how to nurture yourself as a highly sensitive, as an empath, or how to realign with your authentic self, your true authentic self. Because unfortunately many empaths, sometimes we have to experience a period in our life where we grow up in, let's say, an abusive relationship, whether it be emotional abuse, narcissistic abuse, or childhood emotional neglect. And then what happens is that we lose ourselves, we lose touch with our true authentic self, and then we fall out of alignment to experience, like, let's say, like knowing exactly who you are and what it is that you want and what it is that gives you joy and satisfaction. So because of that, we must therefore commit to, let's say, a self-reflection or a self-care strategy to reconnect with that. Because if we don't, we burn out, we go through stress, anxiety, depression, and all of that is, let's say, out of alignment. Now, it has been a couple of weeks since I last uploaded it, because that is a little bit my ADD syndrome as well, and that's why I like to commit to creating videos in nature, because that also slows me down. That's why I like to practice this mindfulness in nature thing, because I can be quite hyperactive in the mind. So going out in nature, it helps me to slow down, because if we can relax, we can reflect, and if we can reflect, taking a step back in order to step up, we can grow in self-awareness, self-knowledge. So many empaths struggle with chronic fatigue or feelings of burnout. And that is because many empaths, they really want to serve, they want to do something for the other. And we are so-called peacekeepers. We want to keep and maintain the peace, whether it be in household, in a relationship, in a work environment. So we often say yes to someone else, but no to ourselves, because we fear if we say no to the other and yes to ourselves, is that we disappoint the other, and therefore we go through conflict or any of that sort. Or other people don't like us anymore, or we might lose a job and career or something like that. Now, one thing that highly sensitive people or empathetic people are actually really good at is feeling what their body, the mind and the spirit actually really needs. Because they're so in touch with that what is required for them to function, basically, because so many empaths, highly sensitive, they struggle to function, and through all their hiccups and struggles, sacrifices and suffering, they had to learn to do what is right for them, like going out in nature, finding peace, quiet, solitude, to recharge themselves. So they also realize when to say no, even if that means to take a step back from a relationship or a job or a career, knowing that it is just not the right thing for them in the first place. But anyway, the real question is, of course, like, what is it that can continue to make you feel driven, passionate, excited, but also feeling satisfied and fulfilled? So this is something we'll continue to talk about while I continue my journey. It's about 11 kilometers hike, but I haven't really been in the countryside for some time, mainly because we have been kind of like suffering from a couple of heat waves here in the UK. As you can see here, it doesn't look very green anymore, and normally UK is very, very green because of all the rain that we have here. And we had more than 30 degrees, and for me that is just like way too much. It's for me like I'm switching off. I'm very white, so if I go out in the sun, I burn, become red like a lobster, lose my skin and start all over. So right now, just below 25 degrees, it is just fine, it is just okay. But anything above that and I am out. So unfortunately it was a little bit like another lockdown for me, because of the heat I just simply couldn't and I didn't want to leave my house. So feeling a little bit stuck has held me back to continue to make videos out here in nature. Another thing, I had 1 week of holidays together with my partner and with my dad, who came over from the Netherlands. So we traveled to the southwest of England region called Cornwall. Lovely area, bit cloudy, temperatures were about 20-23 degrees, so I just had to spend some time with my loved ones and spending time around the coast. So let me continue to do this walk after I finished this green juice, which helps me to stay balanced and connected with my gut, improving my gut health, because as high sensitives we also kind of struggle with the fact that our whole food system has been completely hijacked by the corporations that has profits in mind and nourishment, well, second to none. So I'm sitting here in the grass, and what I'm actually seeing is that the grass or the wheat is almost like kind of like black. So as we know, the pesticides, herbicides and other chemicals being sprayed on these crops makes the farmers help to predict the amount of supply that they can deliver. But is it organic? No, of course not. So we have so-called glyphosates in our diets, which can completely destroy our gut health, our nervous systems, and which makes us feel kind of like low in our energy, our mood, our vibe, and which can also be a factor for depression, mental health, physical health, regulating our emotions. So gut health, I always say, it is that what feeds our mind, our brain, our spirit, our whole nervous system. And it's basically like the gut is like the soil of the tree of consciousness. I mean, a tree can only grow as far as the roots are grounded in the earth. And for many high sensitive, we struggle to feel grounded, and that really starts off in the gut. So that's why I'm having this to nourish my cells. I made a whole playlist about it, so you can check it out if you're interested to learn a little bit more on how I have experienced a cleanse. They say the most unhappy people in the world are actually very, very ambitious. It's just like they hate doing the work to get where they want to be. Or in other terms, they are just really bloody lazy to go and get the work done. But is that really the case? Is it really laziness? Because what if there is like a deeper conditioning that you found it very difficult to find yourself excited or driven and tap into this passion to that what it is that you came here to do. So what is it that actually could energize us at a very natural state? How can we tune into this natural energy that flows all around us and through us? We are part of this. Because let's face it, there are so many different ways we could burn out. Burnout is not about spinning your tires, but actually it's like, you're kind of like spinning your tires, but with the parking brake, the handbrake still on. So you're giving full throttle, but you're not going anywhere. That's kind of how it feels like. So when we think about burnout, it actually means it's like we are just overstimulated, over-exhausted, chronic fatigue, and you're completely burned out if you cannot even get out of the bed in the morning. You found it way too difficult even to brush your teeth or make up your bed or make your breakfast and even start the day. If that's the case, then the only way is find professional help. Find a professional qualified therapist, counselor. You could find these, let's say, on bark.com, and there you can inquire to find any kind of specialist who could help you out if you are at this kind of state. But the purpose of today's video is really about there's another state, and that is more about, you're kind of still like functional, like you still can go on and get out of the bed in the morning, although you don't really jump out of the bed in the morning because you wonder why exactly. Maybe you wake up late, and even if you have slept 8-9 hours, you still wake up tired, fatigued. You find it very difficult to identify your passion, your drive, your excitement. You can't feel anything. Or you find it difficult even when you have done things for the day. And although you kind of really still struggle to get things done throughout the day, because even if you have like a massive list of things that you want to do and complete, you finish just a tiny little bit out of it, because even the work itself makes you so tired, it makes you so drained that you can't really seem to go and get ahead. So it's that emotional numbness that you just really can't seem to give full throttle and release the brakes and go and get where you want to be and feel excited and satisfied and fulfilled by just doing your thing. So that's exactly what we are talking about here. So of course you can also burn out from having a normal regular job because you have much more ambitious to do something else, but once again you feel way too tired to do anything else outside of your job, or the job actually makes you feel very drained because it's not like you're not just overstimulated. Perhaps you are overstimulated from, let's say, working in a specific kind of environment, but you're also understimulated, and that's why you suffer from not burnout but boredom or bore out, which doesn't seem to energize you, excite you, and then when you come home you still carry this bored out within your system. So that's from having a normal regular job being just over broke, because you're also really frustrated with the fact that you're just barely getting by. Or you think about, you know, the reason you're stepped back from moving into a normal regular job, that's by tomorrow you're replaceable by anyone else who could do this very simple mundane job, because you had to step back from, let's say, a corporate career where you also found that you're putting a ladder against the wrong wall, and where you also kind of start to feel depressed, burnout, bore out, etc. Or perhaps you thought like, hey, you know, maybe I should go and get into business for myself and work very hard and go after the financial freedom and the independence and everything that comes with it, the lifestyle and all of that society has given to you, that this is what you want, should want, need, etc. Because everyone else does it, so should you. And then you also figure it's like, okay, wait a minute, now I'm making decent money in my business, but I am not fulfilled dealing with the constant requirements of this business that you are trying to operate or even try to manage. It got to a point where you found it very draining and you don't really seem to be so excited about it anymore. And even though more money in your bank account gives you options, you have tried many of these options and it's nice for some time. Buying a new car is nice for a week. Going on a holiday is nice when you're there, but you know, you're kind of still like bored. It's not enough. There should be more in life. So that's like work, you know, you can have a job, you can have a career, you can have a business, but you know, think about environment. You know, environment plays a massive role as well. What if you're a HSP, highly sensitive person with ADD or autism or ADHD, and you're living in a city environment, and you found the city, it's way too overstimulating for your nervous system. You find it way too crowded, too many people, too much noise, too much pollution. You need nature. You need to able to ground yourself. You need to get the air, the atmosphere from a forest or a coastal area or the mountains to feel alive, to feel satisfied from just being in that kind of environment. But yet you are in the environment that is just not quite right for you, and even though you could drive out to anywhere you want, the fact that you need to drive out to get some of that energy, the thought alone is already exhausting to go and do it. So environment plays a massive role. Another thing is, of course, relationship. So many of us, we are in a relationship where we try to seek or try to compensate for what we have been missing out in our upbringing, in our childhood. So if we grow up in a family where there were two parents who were being split off, perhaps it is like abandonment from either your father, your mother, and that's really what you're trying to seek from in a relationship, and you stick to that relationship. You try to please or say yes to the other, but actually you say no to yourself by doing things. And although you think it's like kind of like a happy, perfect, ideal relationship, in some way it's not, because you are losing yourself and you're drained and you're burning out and you can't seem to get the excitement to experience anything else in your life. What excites you is perhaps meeting new people, but you don't do it because you think that the other person would be displeased if you go and do so. So you don't do it. You say yes to the other but no to yourself. So the only thoughts that could actually excite you is, once again, you know, like meeting new people, dating and exploring and experiencing different things, but you don't do it because you want to stick to that what is familiar, because in some way you're like dependent on that person, emotionally, financially, etc. So what happens is that as a highly sensitive, as an empath, it's like you're closing down your energy centers, your lower energy centers, like your root chakra, your sacral and your solar plexus of personal empowerment, and it really crushes down your self-esteem, and you can't really seem to do anything in life because nothing seems to energize you. Therefore you go and try to get simple jobs, jobs, that barely pays the bills, and even the money that comes in, it's like, you know, you gotta go and spend it because you can't keep it, because you feel this emptiness, like I need more in life, and that's why I try to seek and whatever. So it's a pattern that can go on and on and on for many of us, that we feel like many of our years are passing by because we are kind of stuck in this. So knowing this, bringing some awareness to this, what is the next step that actually could energize us, because we are energy generators. If we learn how to fine-tune, how to bring alignments, because we are receptors, we sometimes have to put the antenna into the right kind of broadcast that can give us the right kind of messages, insights and inspirations, because when we are inspired, we are in spirit. So that's what we are looking for, that's what we are yearning for. And that is, of course, purpose. We must have purpose. I always like to give myself reminders that, you know, trying to live. And that is the famous quote from the poet Rumi, is that, you know, we are all like a tiny little drop of water, and sometimes we have forgotten that as tiny little drops of water we are part of a bigger ocean. Instead we see ourselves as separated drops of water, and if we learn to remember that this drop is part of the ocean, we make the ocean and the ocean make us. Once we learn to reconnect, serve this ocean of infinite abundance will serve us. That is the whole philosophy of what it is that we came here to do, is to remember that truth that exists within us, that nature that we are part of, that exists within us. Because unfortunately so many of us, we are conditioned to live in this survival consciousness that separates us, that bring isolation within our own being, and that's why we try to control and manipulate, take power away from others to get a little bit power for ourselves. It's a very awful environment we live in. Of course, it's how we are brought up, and that's how to survive in our current climate, our current system. And it's the truth that unfortunately also still many of us empaths have to deal with and try to adapt to, and we try to do it ourselves because that's what we see and that's what seems to be the reality. We try to do it ourselves, and once again this is burning ourselves up. We are much closer to our nature than non-sensitive people. It's not that we are better, we are just once again much more in tune with what our body and our minds, our spirits really needs. And that's really the calling, that's the purpose. Number one, it's to realign with that truth of practicing self-care through self-reflection work. Relax, simply relax, because if you can relax, you can reflect. When you reflect, you take a step back. You take a step back and you can step up. Step up in consciousness, self-awareness, self-knowledge, know thyself. Looking down at the roles we are playing in our life, the patterns that we are so attached to. Through this self-reflection work, we can bring awareness and choose to let it go. Choose let go what is not longer working for us. And the best way is of course come out here in nature, because that really helps us to detach from this artificial environment that we are trying to survive in. So that's the first purpose, is try to fill our glass, cleanse, purify and heal our own glass of consciousness, because once we do this often enough, then eventually that glass can start to fill up and flow over, so others can also benefit from it from an unconditional way. Eventually the whole purpose is to reconnect with that truth of seeing ourselves as a drop of water that makes the ocean, and then the ocean makes us. Because then we are really stepping in the truth of being an energy generator that others can also benefit from. Not from the state of survival, fear-based survival consciousness, like, it's you versus me, but really about, hey, how can I serve from the heart and see how we can empower others. But first we must stay in alignment with ourselves, which is the biggest challenge so far, which I've been trying and working on for so many years myself, and every time I also fall out of alignments. Like, I feel like the work that I'm meant to do is creating these type of videos, and then I'm also battling, of course, with the fact like, okay, there's so much more that goes involved and that I should be doing, but then I also live in this city environment that really drains me, and I want to go and get out. And what are my solutions? Is it getting a job in the countryside? But wait a minute, every job I got so far was underpaid, undervalued, it drained me, and all of that. I might stick for a couple of months, and then there's some kind of incident happening, and once again I hit my face against a wall. I get burned out, I get drained, and I either have to walk away myself, or I am forced to move out because I simply do not function in the role as an hypersensitive. And then I'm thinking, okay, so what is my role here then? Now, if you can relate, I'm very curious. Simply drop a comment below. And once again, as you saw in the video, first is really looking after our own energy system, nourishing ourselves, like I also mentioned, like, the gut, which is being stimulated by the solar plexus. If our solar plexus is weak because of where we are at, then that influences the digestive system enormously. And if we don't digest, we don't get rid of the toxins, which slows us down and it de-energizes us, etc. Anyway, I've made a playlist so you can check things out. There's also other videos from one of the major influencers I work with, Troy Casey, the certified health nut. He brings so much more information, knowledge and experiences to this whole topic, because I just take this product for myself and that's about it. And I see it's working. Another thing, if you are at the stage where you can't seem to get out of bed in the morning and you wonder why, once again, best way is to find a certified professional therapist, which you could find on bark.com or .co.uk. There's an English version for Britain and there is an US version, so you can go check it out yourself. All links are in the description down below. But once again, what is your experience so far? Please let me know. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, drop a comment, and I look forward to see you in one of my next videos. Take care for now.